Ring ring.
Hello?
Yeah, is this Victor?
Yeah, who's this?
Yeah, Victor, man, it's actually Alexis. I'll be brief. I'm sure you're getting a ton of these calls. I actually just clicked on the home on Fifth. I do see it as for sale by owner. Out of curiosity, is that still available, or did you already find a buyer that you guys are working with?
No, it's still available. Are you a realtor?
So that's it, guys. That is the opening line for a for sale by owner. It doesn't have to get, all of us have used it over and over again, and it's probably got a 99% conversion rate to get you in the conversation. Are you a realtor? Why are you calling? I'm only paying 2%. Do you have a buyer? That line will 99% of the time get you in the conversation. You don't have to overcomplicate it. Okay, let's pick it up from there.
You guys were selling for sale by owner, but I was curious to know if I happened to connect you with a client that had an offer that made sense. Are you guys against collaborating with an agent at that point?
No.
Okay. And out of curiosity, I mean, obviously,
the only thing I would kind of switch up there, Victor, let's play this back again.
I do see you guys were selling for sale by owner, but I was curious to know if I happened to connect you with a client that had an offer that made sense. Are you guys against collaborating with an agent at that point?
Are you guys against collaborating with an agent at that point if it did make sense?
Right.
The last thing they want to hear is something where you're leading them down like, okay, yeah, I mean, if it made sense, yeah, I would do it. Remember, we're the ones leading the conversation. So everything there was great. Tonality, you prevented the objection by saying, look, I know you guys are for sale by owner. Your pace was very, very good. Your tone was very sharp. The only thing I would have added there is like, look, Victor, if I did connect you guys with a client that had an offer that made sense, are you guys completely against collaborating with an agent? If it made sense, of course. Last thing you want to end up that sentence with, or that question with, is if it made sense. Of course, if it made financial sense. That way, that's the last thing that they hear, and they're prompted to respond based on that.
Right.
Make sense?
Yeah, it does.
By the way, any of you guys, for those of you guys that are new, if you guys have questions in between this review, just unmute yourself and ask, because I can't really see the chat. But this is always going to be interactive.
No.
Okay. And out of curiosity, I mean, obviously you guys are doing for sale by owner, and you're probably getting a ton of calls. But at this point, is there anything else besides?
Vic, did you pick up how she kind of like chuckled there?
Yeah.
I would have reciprocated. And I mean, to be honest, Kelly, like it's probably a good sign that you guys are getting a ton of calls. It means that the property's obviously being seen by people. Now, we want to make sure that property's being seen by the right people. Right. Maybe something like that. But you want to kind of reciprocate there and chuckle a little bit back. That way you kind of break out of that script, and she's kind of like lowering the guard for you. And now you guys can have open, free conversation, because she's still giving you one-line responses here, which is a bit tough.
And you're probably getting a ton of calls. But at this point, is there anything else besides the commission that's possibly preventing you from working with an agent that can net you more money? Or is it just the commissions?
You delivered that perfectly.
Thank you.
Right. After guys, so this is the framework of a FSBO. Get inside the conversation, ask them whether or not they're open-minded to connecting with the client and collaborating, and then isolate the objection. We've talked about it last Monday. There's 3 objections: money, fear, logistics. The one that's most common in for sale by owners is money. It's the most prevalent one. Hey, Victor, out of curiosity, and I do see you are selling for sale by owner, is there anything besides the commissions that would prevent you from working with an agent that can generate you a significantly better result, or it's just the commissions? Notice how Victor ended with, or is it just the commissions? He's again leading the conversation by suggesting it's only the commissions. Okay, no, it's just the commissions. Perfect. Now we have that isolated. We can tackle that. Great job there, Vic.
Well, I mean, it's the commissions, and it's that one of the services our probate attorney is giving us is that he draws up the contract for the purchase. So we're like, okay, we might as well take advantage of that.
Sure. And so honestly, that makes sense. He's acting as if, he's a realtor as well. Obviously, every realtor, whether it's buying or selling, they're also drawing up contracts and doing documents.
Okay, this is where you still got the appointment. We completely missed something crucial and vital here. What did Victor just miss right now, guys?
The probate.
If you get the probate.
And really quick, what's funny is I fucked up. I didn't listen, because even when I got to the appointment, that's what separated us from actually signing was probate. I could have dug way deeper into the probate. Oh, why are you guys doing probate? What happened? Whatever.
Right. And more importantly, she wasn't really aware of the limitation with the probate, because at the end of the call, she was like, we can close in 30 days. We can close in 45 days.
Right.
Right. But she said it here, my probate attorney. This is why listening is so important. How much time did it cost you to not listen, Vic?
A lot.
Hours. Quantify it. 3 or 4?
Yeah. 2 hours probably.
To listen to that snippet. That's why you guys have to get to a level of mastery where you're not worried about what to say next, and you can just fully listen. I caught it the first time because I'm obviously not on the call, but our job is to try to just listen. Because right there, Victor tried to just combat, which is another thing I want to talk to you about. You try to just diffuse the attorney and their ability to close, and now you made it about the attorney. You made it about that objection. right? When that's just a logistic objection.
Sure.
They think that the attorney's going to take care of everything because it's cheaper, money and logistics and fear as well. You made it about that versus saying, oh, I mean, probate. Okay. What part of the process are you guys in right now?
Right.
And digging into that to see whether or not that's even a qualified prospect. Let's go back again and let's take a listen.
But at this point, is there anything
for the purchase. So giving attorney, so commissions it.
or is it just the commissions?
Well, I mean, it's the commissions and it's that one of the services our probate attorney is giving us is that he draws up the contract for the purchase. So we're like, okay, we might as well take advantage of that.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Vic, but you also mentioned that when you went to that appointment, she was getting smoked by that probate attorney with the cost, right?
Yeah.
If we would have picked that up right there, we would have been able to dig deep and find out that she was getting ripped on that cost of the probate attorney. And we could have even created more of a gap between all the other agents and yourself, because most other agents probably didn't pick up on that either.
Right. 100%.
I would say that's something that we could have dug into. And then I'm going to give you a tip right here. When she finishes that objection.
Sure. And so honestly, that makes sense. He's acting as if,
We might as well take advantage of that.
sure. And so honestly,
So instead of just going straight into objection handling mode, I would have been like, okay, Kelly, I mean, what else?
Right.
What else?
Right.
What else is holding you back from working with an agent? That way you just get it, because she's talking. She's engaged. This is the person that is now engaged. She's not trying to rush you off the phone right now. Okay, Kelly, that's totally fair. It sounds like we have a lot going on here. I mean, what else would be preventing you from working with an agent that can get you higher net numbers? Oh, that's it.
Right.
And then now you have more ammunition to understand the full picture of everything. That's one thing. The second thing is you went straight into objection handling mode, and I'm going to tell you exactly what we could have done different here.
Purchase. So we're like, okay, we might as well take advantage of that.
sure. And so honestly, that makes
I think you started talking too fast here also, bro. You got a trend that I was identifying on this call is that you're cutting them off too soon and you're not letting them get their full thought out.
100%.
Right. So you want to take 2 or 3, 4 seconds even to just say, okay, gotcha. I mean, yeah, I'm just writing down some notes, Kelly. Don't mind me. Is there anything else that you're thinking of? And just keep letting that thought flow, bro. Once they're engaged like that, keep letting that thought flow out. Boom, boom, boom. She's going to keep talking. But you just look, she stopped talking at, I'll tell you right now.
We're
38.
like, okay, we might as well take advantage of that.
sure. And
Same second. She stopped at 42. You started at 42.
Yeah.
You got to be comfortable with pauses because she was not done talking.
I agree.
Now, there are some times where you have to interject and they're just yapping, right?
Right.
You got to interject. And I've done that several times. You interrupt. I think this was a case where you got to let her keep going for a little bit to get more context.
And
I
so
agree.
honestly, that makes sense. He's acting as if, he's a realtor as well. Obviously, every realtor, whether it's buying or selling, they're also drawing up contracts and doing documentation, right? But your attorney probably isn't putting you guys in a position where they're advertising your home and exposing the home to net you as much as possible. They're just dealing with the document. So
she agreed with you. So it didn't backfire in this case, but you were telling her instead of asking her.
Right.
I would say, Kelly, I mean, that's actually great that you obviously have somebody representing you and walking you through the process. I'm assuming at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, what's most important to you is to make sure that you're sitting at the closing table, signing off on the most amount of money into your account, right? And then just get her to confirm that. And then after that, you can tackle the fact that, look, obviously, Kelly, I'm assuming, and I could be wrong, I'm not sure what kind of agreement you have with your attorney. I'm assuming that they're going to help you maneuver the paperwork and the contract, correct? Clarify, right? So, I mean, Kelly, obviously, I'm sure you would agree that the two things that sell a property for more money is the exposure, right? The kind of quality of buyer that can actually see the property and qualify for it. And number two, the person that's actually communicating the value of that home to that prospective buyer. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Right. So if there was a way, Kelly, I mean, I know you've gotten taken care of right now, and I'm pretty confident that you could do this on your own. But if there was a way and you sat down with an individual that can show you how they can actually expose this property to significantly more buyers that are even more qualified and demonstrates you that their ability to communicate the value of the home was significantly better than anybody else's, including yourself, and they could end up putting you in a position where you had another 8 to 10% net in your pocket. I mean, if that were possible, that's not something you'd consider, right?
Yeah.
That's more of the diffusement of that attorney objection. But I think it still worked, bro. I'm here. Remember, I'm here to pick apart your call and tips to get better. But I think we gave that objection more validity than it deserved.
Correct.
Right? Because it could have gone the other way. Like, no, my attorney's doing everything. They're taking care of it. I don't need an agent. But she didn't go that path, which is great.
It just would have been a little different if I ended it with a question in general.
Yeah, whenever you guys want to say something, like you were just telling her something there.
Correct.
You want to always swallow that and reframe it as a question. Always. You will, because remember, the one asking the question is the one leading the conversation.
Right.
Because you're the one suggesting, and they're the ones vocalizing. Okay. So right now the objection is timeline, logistics, probate, money, and we have an attorney that's taking care of the paperwork. So we don't need representation.
At this point, it seems like you guys aren't necessarily against collaborating with an agent, even with compensation. But what does the closing look like to you guys?
So, Kelly, at this point, it seems like you guys are not against collaborating with an agent and offering compensation as long as it made sense. Just add that there. As long as it made sense, so you can keep her guard down and
Right.
have her feeling like, okay, he understands that I just want to make more money. I would have just added that little bit right there.
As if you receive that offer, are you guys able to close in 30 to 45 days, or what's that process?
Yes. The only thing that's holding us up, for lack of a better word, is we have the Salvation Army coming to get some of the furniture out of there.
Sure.
And that's not until, I'm looking at my calendar.
That's not a real objection. Like that can be resolved. But
Right.
what I would have asked here is like, I would have expected her to say about the probate. Oh, it's the probate. You could have asked, is there anything, has the attorney mentioned anything about, if you were to get a contract today, is there anything still going on with the probate, or is that already finalized?
Right.
Because it could be, from what you've told me, it's still ongoing, right?
It is, yeah. And that's personal property too.
Yeah, and that's another opportunity for you to create an even bigger gap. Selling a probate property is completely different than selling a property that's not in probate.
100%.
So having the attorney do the paperwork is one thing. Having an agent properly represent and market to the right buyer is another thing.
Yeah.
Completely.
April 10th.
Oh, that's okay. You know what? Honestly, the furniture that you do have would be pretty good staging. And obviously, if it's vacant, it gives two different perspectives to buyers. But at this point, Kelly, I assume you guys are doing this because you want to net as much as possible, right? That's the case.
Sure.
So at this point, are you guys...
So I would have liked for you to slow it down a little bit there. You have the right pace, but you rushed her confirmation. Let's go back to it. And we're listening to this at 1x speed, which is the real speed.
And obviously, if it's vacant, it gives two different perspectives to buyers. But at this point, Kelly, I assume you guys are doing this because you want to net as much as possible, right? That's the case.
Sure.
So she said, sure. Okay, great. So we're on the same page with that. Let that thought sit for a second. And then, but I felt like you rushed that transition a little bit.
Yeah.
Which again, in the grand scheme of things, they don't know what we're doing.
Right.
But with somebody that maybe is a little bit more difficult, these little techniques and switch ups are going to be much more powerful.
At this point, are you guys close-minded of meeting with an agent that if they put a plan in front of you that clearly was able to net you more money after the sale, is that something that you guys would just completely not consider?
I love that question. I do think we could have tapped in more to the motivation before starting to go for it, but not against it, right? Not against it. It doesn't have to be that way every single time. But that was a great question. You framed that great.
Honestly, I don't know. It's all kind of overwhelming right now.
Of course.
I'm excited about that there seems like there's interest.
Right.
We would do like what is it called?
Okay, can I ask you guys, Cole, from what you're hearing so far, is this someone that's done for sale by owner a bunch of times before, super experienced investor, or is this a newbie, never done for sale by owner before, just trying it for the first time?
This is a newbie.
Why? Why do you guys think that? What's giving it away? And why is that important, more importantly?
She seems overwhelmed and nervous, maybe.
Right, which shows to me and shows to us that are more experienced in the chat that have been calling for sale by owners that know how this game goes. This person's never done this before, which is it's the best opportunity. It's like an A-tier person for us to go after because they don't have a bunch of realtors on deck. They're not familiar with the process. And she's just sharing with Victor that she's not even confident. I don't know. Someone that is experienced would say, look, man, I know how it goes. Bring me a buyer. I'm not looking to work with anybody. If 30 or 45 days go by, I have an agent in the back pocket that I can use. Let me know what you got. This person is the perfect kind of prospect. So it's important to identify that because our approach with someone that's super experienced, investor, A-player kind of person is more direct, more aggressive versus a Kelly. It's more like questioning, psychological, digging deeper, letting her talk, right, Victor? We're going to see here at 2:33 that you cut her off, but you still got it. You still got the appointment, which is great. But I felt like we could have let her kind of unravel more because she seems just super overwhelmed. New prospect.
Buyer's commission.
Of course. No, I get it. It is overwhelming.
You cut her off right there. She paused. She didn't end. When people end, they usually say things like, so yeah.
Something, right.
Something like, so yeah. Like in the beginning of the call, if it's all valid to what we're trying to create, which is an emotional buying environment for them to give you an opportunity to go sit down with them at their property, you want to let them keep talking, right? So right there, again, granted, if you want to become efficient on the phone, you need to know when to interject and not prolong it. But I feel like right now we're just creating that. We're creating pain, bro. She's literally talking about, I don't know, it's just overwhelming, etc. buyer's agent. And I'm going to show you how we could have leveraged that even more right now. But right there at 2:30, let's see here.
Like, what is it called? Like a buyer's commission.
Of course. No, I get it.
She was going to keep talking there.
I can
So you could have let her keep 2 seconds, but you could have just let her, because she was going to take a deep breath and then, and keep talking.
And who knows what she would have said.
You could even take it one step further when she's done. I mean, yeah, Kelly, it sounds like a lot. I mean, what else? Like, what else was on your mind throughout this whole process so far?
Right.
Now you're just like someone that she's just venting to, and she's just building that more trust and rapport with you. Because what are most agents doing? Hey, Kelly, can I meet with you tomorrow at 2 or 3? Does that work? Can I? And it's just the same shit. You're creating a pattern interrupt by actually listening to her and validating what she's feeling.
Right.
Right. Let's see what you said.
It is overwhelming, having to be the one that's dealing with all the calls, all that stress. It can obviously get annoying, and it also seems nice because you're getting that interest, right? But out of curiosity, most of the people calling you, they're realtors, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, exactly. And you probably were wishing that they were buyers calling, right?
Well, yeah, of course. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And
So
this is our first time doing this, so.
no, that definitely
you go.
makes sense.
Boom.
And I don't blame you for, doing it on your own and wanting to make as much as possible and, kind of saving on the commissions. But on a scale of 1 to 10, I mean, I assume it's 10 being is most important to net as much as possible, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And I mean, at this point, I get that you're.
So she sounds a little bit. This is all great stuff, by the way. This is phenomenal. She sounds a little bit like, like, where are you going with this, right? When you hear that kind of like, where are you going with this kind of tone, you want to say like, look, Kelly, and the only reason why I'm kind of bringing this up, from what I'm gathering, it sounds like you guys are obviously prioritizing selling the property for the most amount of money. And I'm a little bit concerned because you guys are getting interest, but from what you just confirmed, it's not from the right parties. So I'm just trying to dig a little bit deeper and see whether or not maybe a different perspective might be valuable for you guys at this point. Is that fair? And then you continue. But now she's like, okay, I see what you're doing, right? And we also missed a big opportunity to kind of like diffuse an objection, which was, I'm willing to pay a buyer's agent commission. And I'm sure you'll bring it up later on, but I would have tackled it up front while it was there. I would say, Kelly, that's totally fair that you obviously want to try to save on the commissions. Can I offer a perspective? You mentioned that obviously, and I'm assuming it is important for you guys to net the most amount of money, correct? Would it make sense, Kelly, to pay and compensate somebody that's bringing a buyer and negotiating against you? Or would it make more sense to, if you are going to compensate, right, find an individual that's actually going to expose the property to the right individuals. And once those individuals come through the door, actually negotiate on your behalf versus negotiating against you. Would that make more sense? Or would it make more sense to pay somebody to negotiate against you?
Yeah, definitely.
And then you just completely diffuse the buyer agent commission.
Right.
But bro, so far, like let's play this back for everybody listening, because what you did right there, I think, is mastery. Like this whole part right here is really, really good.
It is overwhelming, having to.
You were agreeing and normalizing. The tone was great. You were just making her feel comfortable. Amazing.
Having to be the one that's dealing with all the calls, all that stress, it can obviously get annoying. And it also seems nice because you're getting that interest, right? But out of curiosity, most of the people calling you, they're realtors, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, exactly. And you probably were wishing that they were buyers calling, right?
Well, yeah, of course. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And
So
this is our first time doing this, so.
no, that definitely makes sense. And I don't blame you for, doing it on your own and wanting to make as much as possible and, kind of saving on the commissions. But on a scale of 1 to 10, I mean, I assume it's 10 being is most important to net as much as possible, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, at this point, I get that you're not really considering, hiring an agent. But out of curiosity, I mean, is it because you guys just want to wait a little bit while, or is it just the commissions?
I would say the commissions. I mean, and
It's a good question. It's a good lead up. I felt like the question was already answered though. Like you already tackled that it was the commissions.
Yeah.
So, it's really the only thing preventing you guys from working with an agent right now is obviously number one, not having that agent identified. And I'm assuming number two, the fact that you guys already have the attorney helping you guys out, right?
Right. That would have been a better question.
Which was our only other concern.
Correct.
And then Kelly, obviously this probably wouldn't even make sense, I'm assuming, but if you were to actually sit down with an agent and it was obvious and evident that hiring an agent to represent you, even though it meant paying more commissions, if that was going to lead you guys to a significantly better result financially, I mean, that's something you wouldn't even consider, right? And based on what she said so far, she's like, oh, I would definitely consider it, which I'm sure she did. But we could have gotten to that right away instead of kind of going back into the objection that we already knew was the reason, right? Yeah. And then you kind of stumbled a bit there and said a little tidbit or something there, which again, bro, it's about progression, not perfection. Sure. I think everybody listening right now that knows what you've been putting in can agree that you've come from someone that was okay at cold calling to, close to mastery at for sale by owners. Like I want to highlight to everybody else listening, this is a very, very high level call. Victor is very much on frame. Tonality is phenomenal. And every part about this is amazing. My job is to just come in here and tear it apart, basically.
Kind of in a nice position where we're not under the gun where we have to sell it yesterday.
Sure.
And we just listed it, so
Correct.
And working with our attorney, we're just,
You wanted to butt in again.
No, I get that. And Kelly, obviously, I don't know if it even makes sense for me to take on this listing. I haven't met with you guys. I don't have enough context. But I am confident that if I were to take a look at the property's condition, the interior condition, and I put a plan in front of you guys, I mean, if you were able to receive an offer sooner rather than later, wouldn't you be more happy than receiving an offer and selling the property 30 to 60 days later?
Yeah, I mean, but like I said, time frame.
That was good, but I think a better tie down. She was like, look, we're not under the gun. Kelly, I think that's actually great. I mean, you've already kind of demonstrated to me that it's very important for you guys to make the most amount of money. Just out of curiosity to pick your brain, would it make more sense to, since you guys are not in a rush and not under the gun, would it make more sense to weigh out alternative options up front? Because if something did make sense, it obviously would put you in a position of more leverage as you're recently on the market to go with that route. Or would it make more sense to kind of wait 30, 60, 90 days? And obviously, hopefully that's not the case, and I don't think it will be. But say the property doesn't sell for the amount you want, then would it make more sense to weigh out the options that you have at that point once you're behind the eight ball?
Yeah.
It would make more sense to weigh out options now. Now you have her. Now she's in the corner. Now you can just present all I'd like to do, and I really don't know if it would make sense. I don't have enough context, et cetera. I'm not guaranteeing you anything because she already said that it would make more sense to weigh out the options now. You know what I'm saying? I would have tied that down before going for it. But now obviously you're going to loop, objection handle, et cetera.
We have the luxury of.
You're not in a rush.
All we need to do is, we just want to sell it. But we have our own home, so we're not, crunched.
No, I definitely understand. I mean, you know what? Honestly, usually homes tend to sell.
What would have been perfect right here, Vic, as like a pattern interrupt? Austin, what would have been perfect right here as a pattern interrupt? Is he still on the call?
Oh, do you have to? Well, no, I don't know. Is that they have to sell it because it's probate?
Right, but why not just
keep it and rent it?
Why not just act stupid? Hey, I mean, Kelly, it sounds like you guys are, not really in a big rush. This is a great property in a great area. I mean, why not just keep the home and rent it out? Rental rates are great in this area. Then you're going to go back to the emotional reason why they have to sell, because we don't have that yet. We know she has to sell based on what she said, but we don't really have why or where that money's going to go or any emotion to tie the logic to.
Her father passed away, and so she could have, by that question, she could have easily told me exactly that. Is that, oh no,
now you could have leveraged that. I mean, Kelly, it sounds like, I know a lot of these agents are probably calling you, just hounding you about the listing. Wouldn't it make more sense to just keep this property and rent it out?
Yeah.
And maybe do like a home equity line of credit and leverage it and get another one? I mean, oh, no. We have to sell it because my father died. Or boom, there you go. Now you have it. Right. Instead of asking, well, why are you selling this home? Why not just keep it? Which is credit to Austin, right? He gave us that line a few weeks ago. Why not just keep the property and rent it out? And then you'll uncover the motivation. That would have been a good pattern interrupt, shift the conversation, get the emotion, go back in. Make sense, everybody? So far so good?
Yeah.
For less when they're on the market for a longer time, right? And so at this point, of course, and at this point,
But she's with you so far. Like, if she was not being receptive to the approach, obviously I know you would have switched it. She's with you so far. She's like, yeah, sure. She's engaged. She's there.
Just want to make sure that you guys aren't losing out on this market that we're in at the moment, and that you guys are able to, get those higher offers and net as much as possible. So, Kelly, at this point, obviously it seems like you aren't against possibly having that conversation. So if I was able to meet with you this week at a time that made sense for you, and I put that plan in front of you, even if you're not obviously going to sign anything and that's no obligation, but I want you to consider it so that later down the line, if it makes sense for you to work with a realtor, you met with a professional one, and you have that information ready to go.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that wouldn't hurt anything.
Exactly.
With the understanding that, we really want to try for sale by owner.
Of course. Yeah, no, that makes sense. And honestly,
she wanted to keep talking again. I would have said some. Go ahead, Vic. Sorry.
I felt like I said way too much before all that. Like, I could have made it way shorter, and I just said too much. We could have gone down the path of here. It's like, hey, look, Kelly, this is the first time you guys are doing this, right? But let's fast forward. And obviously, hopefully this is not the case. This is what I'm trying to prevent. And my main concern here is, let's say 30, 60, 90 days go by and you guys are at the closing table signing documents. And, a little bird came in the closing room and whispered in your ear, Kelly, you guys could have gotten another $45,000. Like, how would you feel? Yeah.
And I'm just presenting the scenario, Kelly, because obviously right now, like, this might seem in your brain as the only alternative to get there, saving the commissions, not paying an agent. But how upset would you be? Now you're creating a feeling. How upset would you be if you found out, right? Let's say you did find out that at the closing table, you had a number that you were okay with, but you found out you left another 30 to 45, 50,000 on the line. And remember, use these numbers in reference to the purchase price.
Right.
Always use 8 to 10% of the purchase price as a reference. Let's say the property's at 500. You want to use, I don't even know what 10% of that is, 50 grand. If you left another 30 to 50 grand on the table, would that make you upset or you'd be cool with it? Because now you're tying her down. Like, look, you've never done this before. Kelly, like at the end of the day, if we meet and I walk you through my information and it makes more sense to sell it for sell by owner, that's what you'll do, correct? You'll be honest with me and tell me that this doesn't make sense, correct? Of course. So just out of curiosity, what would be the worst thing that could happen out of us meeting? You get more information. In the case that it does make sense, we talk about further details, but at least you can move forward confidently that for sell by owner is the best route, right? I would have kind of created more of a fear consequential scenario. How upset would you be if you sat at the closing table in 90 days and found out you left X amount of money on the table?
Right. That makes sense.
I respect that you guys want to do for sale by owner because you guys feel like you're going to save on the commissions and make more money. But let me ask you this really quick before you let me go. If you had an offer that involved commission and you clearly were netting more money versus an offer that didn't involve commission and you were netting less money, which offer would you choose?
Well, yeah, I mean, the way you explain it, I mean, that makes sense.
Sure.
Where if we can make more money in our pocket and still pay the commissions, that's a no-brainer. But how do you guarantee that? I mean, you really can't, right?
So can somebody tell me, Fernando, can you tell me what the next step in this phone call is? She just totally engaged and leaned into the conversation. What's the next step here, friend?
I'll say that, bro. But just I wanted to add very quickly before that. The same kind of question that he asked, I've seen you ask it before in a different way. Kind of like what again, I hear you say that. I think at the what you mentioned earlier was that netting the highest net number at the end was more important rather than just saving the most commission. Is that correct? So like which one is more important, saving the most commission or netting the highest amount of money? So that would have been the same thing. I think after that, you kind of reassure them like, hey, again, like you mentioned, netting the highest net number is what's most important for you. I want to be, honest with you. I don't want to, overpromise on something I don't know just yet if I can deliver on. But what I can do is, and I just suggest, I can swing by that property, possibly tomorrow or the day after, because I'm going to be showing homes there. I don't mind taking a quick look at your property, maybe getting a little bit more details on what it is you're trying to accomplish here, and then sitting down with you and showing you that strategy and see if it even makes sense for you. I mean, would that be fair?
Perfect. Anthony, what is he doing there? What is that technique called though?
What, he was leaning out, right? He was like,
leaning out, right? Yeah, correct. The second that he gets that prospect to lean in, instead of saying, well, Kelly, we can guarantee you this outcome. If we sit down, I'll guarantee you that we'll obviously put you in the best commission structure, the best blah, blah, blah. I work with the best company and we can do X, Y, Z. You said, hey, look, Kelly, I'm glad you're open-minded to it because, again, my concern is that you're leaving money on the table. Just to be transparent with you, I definitely don't want to, like Fernando said, I don't want to overpromise and deliver. I haven't done my homework on the property and I don't even know whether or not my strategy would make sense. All I want to do is I am actually going to be in the area there this week on Monday or Tuesday, sit down with you, share some information that's valid to your property and see whether or not anything makes sense. And if it does, at that point, we can talk about further details. I just want to make sure that you move forward since you're not in a rush and not under the gun with the best strategy possible. It's going to get you and your family the best result at the end of the day. Would that be something that you're completely opposed to? As soon as they lean in, you want to lean right back out. Let's see what picks up.
Well, you're right. I mean, there definitely is no guarantee. But if we are putting your property in a position where we're maximizing the exposure and bringing in as many buyers as possible, having an aggressive agent like myself who's able to negotiate on your behalf is going to be able to bring you a higher net offer, which is putting more money in your pocket. So like I said, Kelly, right? I mean, at this point, I don't know.
What I would have added there, Vic, is like, and look, Kelly, instead of me kind of persuading you or convincing you that I'm able to do that over the phone, you're obviously not going to make a decision based off of that. All I'd like to do is just present more information in front of you. You're the homeowner. And at the end of the day, what you say goes in this transaction. All I want to do is present to you information that's actually helped sellers that are for sale by owners as well net significantly more money at the end of the day when using the correct agent.
Right.
Because it sounds like, again, Kelly, from what you've told me, correct me if I'm wrong, on a priority scale of 1 to 10, it's more important for you to net the most amount of money instead of just paying less commission, right? Which is where you can kind of reemphasize what you just said in a different way, like Fernando presented it.
Exactly.
But we don't know if it makes sense, and that's exactly why I just want to meet with you guys, take a look at the home, and put this plan in front of you. If it's something that makes sense to you guys and it's something you would consider, then we could go into further detail, of course.
Okay. that sounds fair.
Instead of leaving it there, you want to make her feel even more comfortable. She agreed, but you say, if it makes more sense, we can go into further detail. And if not, Kelly, I mean, you'll be honest with me and tell me that this doesn't make sense, and you guys will just continue selling for sale by owner, right?
Right.
Yeah, we will for sure. And now she feels super comfortable because you're not going to put her in a corner and make her make a decision that she doesn't want to make.
Right.
Remember, if you keep imagine a sales conversation, like if you were in a room with four walls, right? Whenever you're in a sales conversation, if you're the prospect, you're always looking for the what?
Motive.
Can somebody tell me? If you're in a four-wall room, in a very small room, and you're in a sales conversation that you didn't ask to be in, what are you always looking for?
An exit,
a door. So if you're always telling the prospect, hey, the door's right there, you can leave whenever you want.
Right.
They're not going to be looking for the door, and they're going to be listening to you. So you always, whenever you're pitching and presenting and offering the opportunity, you got to remind them, hey, look, Kelly, the door's right there. You don't got to do this. Door's right there. Door's right there. Keep imagining them in a box. They're in a little box that they didn't ask to be put in, and they want to get out. From the second you get on the phone, you got to keep reminding them where the door is.
That's why Austin always says, like, yeah, and you could be honest with me. You could tell me if I'm wrong, or you can hang up at any time, because then they're like, they feel like they're in charge here.
yeah,
Correct.
and hey, like, so hopefully I can chime in on that. You said that, that analogy of like the corner, and maybe you could even use that on a call. I don't know if that makes sense for what we're doing here, but you can even be transparent, at least for me on the calls that I'm making. For sale by owners, appreciate when it feels genuine and honest. So I would say that the same thing, like, hey, again, I don't want to overpromise on something I can't deliver on just yet because I've never seen the home, and other than that, I don't want to make you feel like I'm putting you in a corner here. I'm not really, in the business of convincing. All I want to do is just give you some information, and at that point, if it makes sense, I'm more than happy to go over the details with you. If not, I mean, ultimately, it's your home. I'm happy to leave if that's what you wish, but all I want to do is just give you some information. I mean, would that be okay with you?
Yeah. And then tie it down even further. Like, look, from what it sounds like, Kelly, you would be pretty upset if 90 days went by, you sold the home, and you found out you could have sold it for more money, right? Would that upset you? Yeah, that would upset me. Now she wants to emotionally meet with you, right? Because you put her in a feeling of a consequence.
Right.
But yeah, you always make sure, guys, that you remember they're in a conversation they didn't ask to be in, right? The appointment's different because they agreed to that. They didn't agree to be called by you. They didn't agree to be on the phone for 7 minutes. They're giving you their time. Keep making sure you let them know the door's right there.
Okay. Are you typically available more in the afternoons or the evenings?
I'm a school teacher, so it would be evenings.
Okay. No, that makes sense. It's very nice. Okay. So
Guys, by the way, I really like what Vic did here. You know how we typically taught this maybe 6 months ago? Like, are you more available in the mornings or the evenings? I like the afternoons or the evenings. It doesn't really ever make sense unless they suggest it to meet in the morning, because that's when you're making your what?
Calls.
Your calls. So I would like for you guys to keep using that. Does it make more sense to meet in the afternoons or the evenings? And then if they say the evenings, say, okay, would something more like 5:30 work, or something like later in the day, 7:30 or 8:30 better for you? That way you're giving them like a range, right? And they can't, the whole point is to make sure that they're still staying on the focus of the appointment, not going back to the objections. So I would say afternoon and evenings and a range. Or let's say they say afternoons. Okay, Kelly, would something more like, early afternoon, 12:30-ish work for you? Or would something more in the later afternoon, 3:30 or 4:30 work? Now you're taking that two-way close to the next level.
Right.
I do have availability either tomorrow or Thursday. Do you think maybe 5 p.m. would be good for you?
You see, that right there opens it up for, no, 5 p.m. doesn't work. Right. Obviously, this call has been great so far, and I don't think she was going to do that. But we don't want to make that mistake. We're about to get the appointment, and then we trap her. This 5 p.m. No, 5 p.m. doesn't work. Now her mind's in saying no. And look, Victor, really, we're just going to hold off. And now you have her in that train of thought. Versus you're guiding the conversation and saying afternoons or evenings, 5:30 or 7. I know you get home from work probably around 5:30. Which one will work better for you? Now she's still focused on the appointment.
You're located?
I specifically live in Willoughby Hills.
Oh, wow. Okay. We're farther out west.
Yeah, that's okay.
That's an objection that just came up right now.
Yeah, I have a listing coming up in Louisville, Ohio, and in Niles. They're going live today, actually. So I'll be doing an open house on those this Saturday. And honestly, those were for sale by owners as well. So the same plan that I put in front of them is what I would be doing with you. And if it makes sense for you, then it does. If not, then I just want to weigh out your options.
If not, then you'll just sell for sale by owner, right?
Right. Yeah.
You just kind of left it there. You got to guide her through it. If not, then you'll just sell for sale by owner, right, Kelly? And I want to make sure we're clear on this. You'll be honest with me, right? Like if we walk in there and anything doesn't make sense, you'll tell me, right?
Yeah.
And now you just did what again? You just showed her the door.
The exit, yeah.
That's it. But you got to make sure these are the little things that we can tighten up. The little words at the end are the ones that they hear the most. The end of every question or statement is the one that they hear the most, and the one that they're going to go their answer based off of.
Options, that's all.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I
Of
do.
course.
I'm just looking at my
She's
calendar.
nervous.
A
Of
busy
course,
Saturday.
likewise.
We're doing the open
She's
house
nervous.
Sunday.
Yes.
Yeah, this week is just.
Vic, how long was she on the market at this point?
Not that long, like maybe.
I'm going to give you
4
guys a little tip that I haven't shared with you guys. Let me see. Let me ask somebody. Pedro, what would have been something good that I could have asked her here to pick her brain on her activity thus far with agents? At this point, we got the appointment. What could I have said here to kind of gauge where she's at with making a decision with an agent?
Maybe ask if sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, so right here, she's basically giving us the appointment.
Mhm.
Now I want to gauge something that I did in my career when I was in active production was gauge where they were at with agent interaction.
Yeah,
What would
so
have been a good question to ask her to kind of gauge that?
Yeah, I will ask her like how many agents have she spoke with, or does he have any other appointments that have scheduled with them?
That's it. Yeah. So
Depending
go
on
ahead.
the answer, kind of push her to see if you can be either the first one or the last one.
Depending on the answer, you'll position your appointment in a different way.
Yep.
Hey, Kelly, and if we could just, obviously we're having a great conversation. I love the transparency. Have you met with any other agents yet at this point, or would be the first agents to meet with you? Oh, we already met with some agents and it went well. We have a couple more appointments this afternoon. Either that, or she's going to be like, no, we haven't met with anybody yet. And you're the first in the game. Or maybe she has 2 meetings this afternoon and you're like wanting to sneak by right after the last one in case you lose the listing. That's an important question that we could have added there. Like, hey, look, Kelly, just so I get an understanding, I mean, where are you at with as far as meeting with agents? Have you met with anybody yet? That would have been a great question to ask.
No, I get it. It's a lot. It's a lot to
Yeah,
try to do this on your own, especially if no one's helping you and you're the one that, you're working and having to get all these
Sure.
calls. I know.
What would have been a great add-on to that statement there? It's a lot. It's a lot to get all these calls and, agents calling you. What could you have added? A perspective, Vic.
You're saying what perspective could I've
Yeah,
added?
you gave her, she has a perspective right now of being overwhelmed from getting the calls and having the agents and this, that, the third. The whole process of for sale by owner is overwhelming. That's a lot. What else could be a lot, Vic, in her eyes?
I don't know.
Hey, look, Kelly, it's a lot right now. You're getting a ton of phone calls from agents. Obviously, you wish you were speaking to buyers and signing contracts. That's a lot. It's overwhelming. You know what is also a lot in my perspective, and you could totally disagree with me. It would be a lot, in my opinion, for you to be sitting down at a closing table signing paperwork that would be $30,000 to $50,000 less going into your bank account. Would you agree that'd be overwhelming for you?
Yeah, that
Boom.
was
Again, into that consequence mindset.
right.
Right at the end. Because guess what? Appointment set doesn't mean appointment met.
Right.
We have to increase the show up rate of this person. If she's going based off of fear of losing 30 to 50 grand and she correlates that fear with meeting with Victor, she's going to want to meet with Victor.
For sure.
She's going to prioritize that appointment. So we could have kept going there at the end and say, look, that's a lot, Kelly. I agree with you. Would it be more overwhelming to sit down at the closing table and have someone whisper in your ear that you could have had another 50 grand going into your account? Would that be overwhelming? Conviction in your voice. Yes. Yeah, that'd be overwhelming. Okay, great. That's why I want to meet with you. And just to clarify, would there be anything kind of getting in our way from us just having a 20-minute conversation tomorrow at 5? Boom. Show up rate increase. Fernando?
This is more of a curiosity question, bro. I guess it's just something that I thought in my mind right now. She was pretending like she's looking at her schedule and nothing's kind of working out. I think that's just hesitancy, right? Like there's something missing there. It might
Uncertainty.
Uncertainty, right? So we want to, I just thought this in my mind and let me know what you think on this, right? Because this is something that I've tried on the phone. It went well for me, but I don't know if it'll go well every single time. Like there was a pause when they're kind of looking and they're looking at the schedule. I know it's my fault. I must have missed something that created that uncertainty in them or not super confident. So I just asked them, listen, I don't mean to cut you off. I know you're looking at your schedule here. Obviously, we've been on the phone for 8 minutes. I know it's super difficult, to know who's who on the phone. And already this process is super overwhelming. So listen, I get it. I know I've been asking you tons of questions, which one, first and foremost, I appreciate that. And I notice, if I may be a little bit direct with you, I notice a little bit of uncertainty and hesitancy on your part, and maybe that's because I'm asking all these questions. Is there anything you'd like to maybe ask me? Maybe there's something that I missed that maybe you want to reiterate for me, or something that I might have, not addressed beforehand. I mean, what's kind of stopping you from kind of, pulling the trigger and saying, hey, at least let me explore some options and see if this makes sense for me. And then I
like that. You could also bring up more objections again, which you could just tackle them.
Right.
I like the whole thing, except for maybe asking her if they have any questions for you.
Okay.
Just kind of soothing her, like
Right.
soothe the prospect. Like, look, I know this is an overwhelming process, and your plan was not to just put the property on Zillow since it's your first time and get all these calls. My concern is that right now your property has a lot of leverage. As you've seen, it's getting a lot of interest, but in our opinion, correct me if I'm wrong, it's getting interest from the wrong parties, right? All I want to show you tomorrow at 5 is how we can get the interest from the right parties and how we can communicate the value of your property at a much higher level, generating a much higher result. Would that be fair? And now you're kind of like clarifying what the meeting's going to be about as well. soothing them. But I wouldn't open it up for questions because then now you're not in control of the call anymore.
Right. I was about to say, yeah, that makes
I
sense.
liked everything that you said except for the part where you opened it up for questions.
Right. Okay.
But before you get the appointment set at the end, you want to soothe them again, bring up all their objections again, and bring up what the meeting's going to be about. Hey, Kelly, look, right now, the two things, in my opinion, from what I've experienced in the industry over the last 5 years, the two things that sell a home is exposure and communication of value. Right now, you're getting exposed, in my opinion, correct me if I'm wrong, you're getting 80 to 90% realtors calling, right? So there's something wrong with the exposure immediately. The second thing is when you do get a qualified lead inquiring about the property, who's able to communicate the value of the home at a significantly higher level? And I'm not saying you're not capable, Kelly, but would you be against the idea of having an expert communicate why your home is worth more money to a buyer that's qualified to purchase it? Would that be a bad idea for you? No, right? That's all I want to talk about on Tuesday, tomorrow at 5 p.m. If anything were to not make sense, all I expect from you is transparency and honesty and telling me that it doesn't make sense. And then you'll just continue doing what you're already doing, correct? The exit again. Make sense?
Yeah.
What is, I mean, I don't want to put you off, but what is next week?
Oof, another objection. So guys, as you've seen, like this is a very open-minded prospect, but all the way to the end, she's giving Victor objections.
That I will be out of town for just 3 days. I would prefer to put this plan in
Instead of saying, let's listen to the whole thing and then I'll give you my
front
feedback.
of you now, only for
Right,
you
I
to
get
get
it.
a good idea. But when I do meet with you this week, I will also talk to you about how I do my open houses. I would be more than happy to also possibly do an open house this Sunday for you. I mean, that gives you a little bit more freedom, more time.
That's like kind of like lowering your status a little bit, in my opinion, because you're offering to do a
Right.
service when you don't even know if it makes sense. Instead of saying, Kelly, I would prefer to put this plan in front of you, say, Kelly, I hear your hesitancy. It totally makes sense. Would it make more sense for you to weigh out your options up front now that you have all this attention, all this leverage from interested parties? Or would it make more sense to put this off once your property's kind of cooled off, 7 to 14 days into the market? People are obviously more excited about properties that just came on the market. Would it make more sense to prioritize this and weigh your options out now while you have the hot hand? Or would it make more sense to let the property cool off, the calls calm down, and then you're behind the 8 ball and weighing out your options then? What would you
Right.
prefer?
Right.
Instead of I would prefer, what would you
Right.
prefer, Kelly?
The question.
Right. That's it. It's because it's all about them. It's not about us.
For yourself, less stress. And obviously, if through the open house, I'm able to get a buyer in that way too, then we don't even have to list your property.
This is still good, but it combats the idea of what we do. Exposure, right? A smart person would be like, I mean, you're telling me that you want to get me exposed in front of more people, but you're going to say you're going to bring me a buyer through one open house? That doesn't make much sense, right? Like a smart person. Kelly's never done it before, so you got away with it, right? I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, when you start addressing the open house aspect of things, that's another area to show why hiring somebody would be beneficial. I would ask, are they planning to hold their open house themselves, or is the attorney going to do it?
Right.
You
That's a
know
good
the
one.
attorney's not going to do it, so they're going to say, I plan on doing it myself. And then you could say, well, there's actually a really specific process I take people through while I show houses to make sure that they don't miss anything and that they're getting exposed to all of the qualities that are going to increase the perceived value of the home. Have you done any training to prepare yourself for that to get the highest and best value? And then she's going to say, no, I was going to walk them through the house. Right. And then that helps you segue into, well, yeah, that's another one of the things we could talk about when we meet here. And
it recreates the urgency because you could say, look, Kelly, if it doesn't make sense, you can just go ahead and use all my tactics for your own open house, right?
Right.
Now you're back to, because remember, she hadn't told you anything about logistics in the beginning. Now she's bringing up a logistics-based objection at the end, which means it's what? It's really what? Out of the three, which one is? She's bringing up a logistics objection, but she's disguising a what objection, Victor?
Fear?
A fear objection. She's giving you a logistics, I can't meet this week, but
Right.
it's really disguising. I'm just scared to meet with you because I don't know what it is about.
True.
It's a fear objection. It's a money and fear objection at this point. And you'll later find out that there's actually a logistics thing in the way, but that's not what
Right.
in her head, the probate wasn't the issue, right? Until
Right. You didn't realize.
let's see how you wrap this up.
Yeah. So like,
When a person says things like, yeah, they're trying to justify why they want to do it. You got to
Okay.
keep giving her ammunition as to why she should do it. You got to soothe her. Like when I'm on the call with one of you guys and you guys are like, yeah, like you're just trying to justify it in your head. You just need to have her talk it out. I mean, Kelly, let's walk through this. This is the first time you've done for sale by owner. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think you can with 100% certainty say this is the best way would it make sense to leave 8 to 10% of what you're asking for on the table, or would it make more sense to just see what other individuals that have done this professionally would have to say? What do you think would make more sense? Pick her brain and walk her through it. She'll just start talking her way into it, right?
Right.
Make sense?
Yeah.
Because when she's saying things like, yeah, she just needs to justify it. Ask her a question where she can just self-vocalize why it makes sense.
Right. Versus coming up with an excuse.
Exactly.
So we already have an appointment Wednesday and
What about after on a
Thursday.
Wednesday?
So again, right there, instead of kind of clarifying what that appointment was for on Wednesday, we're going straight for our appointment, which I get it, right?
I do it after I switch up the orders.
You're supposed to do it first.
I know. Right.
Because then the person forgets about it, or you can risk forgetting about it yourself.
Correct.
Okay, I mean, Kelly, look, I don't want to overwhelm you. If you don't mind me asking, that appointment on Wednesdays with an agent as well, or you're meeting with a prospective buyer? Tackle things as they come up.
Wednesday is at 4:30 out in Avon Lake.
Okay, so and you're meeting another agent at that property?
Correct.
Okay, so how?
So she said 4:30 is out in Avon Lake. What is her property in Avon Lake?
It's in Avon Lake, but she doesn't live there. So she's like telling herself she has to go out there to the house.
Okay.
That's what I
Because I
think.
thought she was referring to like a property she wants to go look at to buy,
No,
which could
no.
have been another thing. But okay, Avon. Okay, cool.
How about, I assume you guys are probably going to talk for about an hour or so, right? So
Yeah.
what if we meet at 5:45? Do you think that's good?
Yeah, that should work.
So tomorrow at 5:45, correct?
Yes.
Okay, sounds good, Kelly. I'm going to go ahead and send you over my...
I've always been the kind of person to say come in last. I'm almost inclined to say, Victor, you should have gone in first. And in the case where you do get the listing, it's like, look, Kelly, I know it's uncomfortable to tell this person that they drove all the way over here and they did all this work to prepare. I'll handle that conversation for you, and I'll let them know that we're going to move forward and work together. It could go either way, but you risk the other person being good enough to get the listing.
I don't know. I think it was Raphael who was in here who literally.
Right. That's why I'm saying
Oh,
exactly
yeah.
that, because he walked in on a listing that got signed.
Yeah.
So I'm almost inclined to just say, like, whenever they do tell you there's an appointment, try to meet before.
Sure.
And if you do the good enough job, you can say, look, Kelly, I know that telling this person right now that you promised her time is going to be overwhelming and a scary thing to do. I'll take that conversation myself, and I'll have them position themselves in a way where they can go out there and find some buyers for us. Fair enough? Yeah.
business card so you know who's calling you, and then I
Okay,
will see you
perfect.
tomorrow at 5:45.
Okay, sounds good.
All
Thank
right,
you.
thank you. Take care.
I would give her, so remember we talked about the Loom video? I would
Yep.
give her action steps. Hey, look, Kelly, before we go ahead and meet, I'm actually going to put together a 10 to 12 minute video that you can actually watch in 4 to 5 minutes sped up. Just giving you a bit of a preview about what we're going to talk about on Tuesday. That way you know exactly what we're going to go over. All I need you to do is just make sure you give me a thumbs up when you watch that video. I want to make sure you have a full understanding of what we're going to talk about. And honestly, Kelly, if after watching that video you feel like us meeting is not necessary, just let me know. Because you'll provide so much value in that short Loom video that she'll be like, I actually really want to fucking meet with you.
Right. I want to know what's more.
But you got to let her know what the next steps are before the meeting. Kelly, so here's what I'll do. I'm going to send you over within the next 24 hours. I'm going to send you a quick breakdown of what we'll talk about so you have an expectation set up. And then if I have any questions as I'm preparing, because I am going to put together some significant information for you, is it okay if I just give you a ring at this number? That way, any questions about the property that come up, I can just ask you directly before we meet. Perfect. Now you open up those touches. Remember, we talk about 4 to 8 touches before the appointment for the show up rate. Now you open that up completely. And she's expecting your call to give you answers to your questions.
Sure.
Make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Overall, bro, very, very good call. Very strong. Posture was very good. Tonality was very good. You pivoted in the right direction most of the time. There's a lot of things that we could have improved on, in my opinion, though.
100%. I agree.
Anybody have any takeaways? Victor, any takeaways on your end? And then we can kind of go through
Yeah,
a
definitely.
few.
Just like calming down and waiting for them to fully like be done with their sentence. Because even day-to-day interactions, I don't know what it is, like if it's the passion or what it is.
It's
but-
excitement.
And I feel like I have to reply right away as soon as you finish your sentence too. So definitely just to calm down and, because my tonality became better. And then now the second thing now is just, waiting and then
Right.
slowly speak.
And I think also positioning the right questions at the right time.
As a question, right, instead of statements.
Reframing as a question and saying the right questions as well. Asking the right questions as well.
Definitely.